Welcome to New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. I'm your host, Sean. It's disingenuous what's going on in the media, as always. Actor Billy Porter came out on The View and he started espousing that guns are what kill people, kill kids. That's absolutely wrong. These are statistics that the CDC is combined with 18 and 19-year-old adults, young adults, which has a propensity towards gang violence, where he was talking about guns are what are absolutely killing kids. This is false. Young kids, if they're under the age of 18 or 19, it is absolutely one of the least possible ways that they're going to get killed. When you get older, you're starting to worry about suicide and as well as gang violence. So this stuff keeps popping up in the media, and this is what Colion Noir was talking about when he was talking about the statistics around the CDC data and how they use and weaponize these little stats when they're absolutely wrong. And it's because the CDC is now changing their data, and the FBI is now being told to exclude data to hand to the CDC on FBI crime statistics. What does that lead to? It leads to false conclusions. And for the zombies that only take one stance and always espouse that stance, and they use these statistics to try to win, they will fight to try to keep hold of the conversation, and they will not let you get a word in edgewise. These people usually cannot be convinced anyway. But the way you fight this is you start doing, yeah, I know what you're talking about. But you're absolutely wrong. You're actually talking about this too. But if you look at the other statistics and have those other statistics to them, I don't personally have those because I haven't really dug that deep into it because I know they're absolutely wrong. As much as they like to think that, that there is a huge disparity in race violence that's going on, you find in the statistics, specifically the FBI statistics, that that's absolutely false. There's usually more white people that have been killed by firearms, and it's usually killed specifically by law enforcement versus anyone of color. And the reason why that is because the sheer population size. There's a reason why people are considered minorities. They aren't as prevalent, so to say. So you're going to have more interactions with white people anyway, so therefore it would make more sense statistically that there would be more white people dying from interactions with police that led the wrong way. If you look at actual crime statistics, what's going on in inner cities right now, what you're finding is that most guns are pistols, for one, and that they were stolen, or that were a straw purchase. Why? Because you can't conceal a rifle. Even one of these short-barreled rifles, or what they're calling them now, they're not. They cannot be concealed as easily. I would argue that they are probably one of the least used weapons in this type of scenario. Recently, AR pistols have been used a couple times, and that's what led people to think, ooh, it's the scary brace that's made them the scary gun that did bad things. No, it's stupid, you stupid idiots. It's still the people. And as long as we keep having these people getting into media circles and being able to espouse their views without having any pushback, we're going to continue to have to fight these battles. We won in the Roundhouse in New Mexico. That's a huge thing considering how blue the state actually is. If you compare what's happening in New Mexico to, like, California, we fight these same battles that Californians do, but we've won consistently. Why? Because New Mexicans know deep in their heart of hearts it's not the gun that's causing the problem. It's the crime. And that's where we have a huge, I don't know how else to put it, press-related issue. We are not as eloquent as we should be to tell our story. And we need to be more eloquent when we, like Colion Noir, to get out and actually share our stories of how the 2As saved us. Now, I can point to 2 times where a gun saved my person, or I believe saved my person, because I've had 2 vagrants at 2 different places. Well, actually 3 now, if I think about the one in Albuquerque, where there was a point where I had no choice but to reach for my sidearm. Now, in the first case, which was in Albuquerque, a vagrant tried to enter, and all 3 of these actually all have some very common themes. The vagrant tried to enter the vehicle I was in and was trying to rifle through the center console while I was waiting for someone to come from another store, or to come out of the store so he could leave and come back to Farmington. When he did this person was kind of having to stand sideways because they knew what was going through my head, and I was going to, stop the threat is the best way I would put it. The second time this happened was going to a place kind of downtown in Farmington, and as I was leaving this restaurant, I was approached, and this gentleman, I don't want to call him a gentleman, this guy came up to me and said, "Hey, give me a ride." And I said, "No, I'm not giving you a ride." I then proceeded to get into my truck and start to get into my truck, and that's when he slid into my truck, at which time I again reached for my sidearm, and that motion as he saw my sidearm getting cleared from its holster was enough for him to run off. Now, the third time was at a very janky pizza dive in northwest New Mexico, and I went there to go pick up a to-go order, and the same exact thing happened as it was at this other restaurant. This guy tried to get in my vehicle. I told him no. There was a moment where he was more stern, thinking he could push me around. I then was like, "No, you can't. You need to move now. You need to leave." I got more stern. I let my inner gunny come out. And then I cleared leather. Again, none of these times have I ever had to fire my sidearm. However, it did stop the threat cold. The crime that was going on there is one of coercion. You'd think that you can handle a drunk, right? Well, I'm not so sure these guys were drunk. They were just really belligerent to the point that they thought they could push me into a scenario that I didn't want to. One, I wasn't going to give a ride to someone I don't know, especially someone who is acting the way this person was. 2, anytime you leave an initial contact point of something like this, it's usually a bad scenario for you. Any law enforcement agent will tell you if you leave the point of contact like that, you're usually going to die. I won't do that, and I'll fight, and I proved it. But that right there has validated exactly why I have a concealed carry, is because we live in uncertain times and uncertain places, and, it rains sometimes. I am very cognizant of my surroundings. And, I know that geography, as much as I like to say this consistently, geography is a problem that I have to overcome here. And what I mean by that is anywhere I want to go is going to take me some time to get there, because sheer amounts of space I have to travel to get from point A to point B. And problem 2 is that the law enforcement agents we do have, even though I see some of them as very inept, some of them are very capable, they're going to help you. I'm positive they will come to my aid if I call them. It's a matter of, can they get there in time? Do they have enough on duty at the time to answer the call for service? Or are they all doing something at that exact moment that's kind of more critical in their mindset? Now, that's why I believe that it's better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6. And I will always try to carry wherever I can. In my loon line of business, I can't. It's kind of like my old one, in that I can't carry legally. But there is private security where I am working that is armed. in the facility I will be working at that is armed. And that makes me feel a lot better. It's not ideal. I still like to have my own self-ownership and my own way to be able to fight back. But you take your wins where you can. And in certain industries, certain places, you can't carry because the law prohibits it. And that's where the law needs to get out of personal business. Time and time again, you're finding out that civilians are the ones that are actually stopping the threat before it's gotten to that point where law enforcement absolutely had to get there. In reality, how it should be is you should be able to call the morgue when it's all said and done. I feel that strongly about it anymore, is that if law enforcement can't do anything to deter this type of people from the actions they're going to take, I don't want to be judge and executioner, but at that point, there's going to be an exchange, and it's probably not going to be in their favor. It very well could be detrimental to myself, but I'm willing to take that risk because I'm kind of tired of seeing this crap happen. I've kind of become one of those people that have seen the darker parts of what humanity has had to go on to. You know, you can live through the blowback and have to send alerts out for someone breaching a school you were personally in charge of in a roundabout way, and you can then decide how you will act from that point forward. Mine was to become trained, to learn a hell of a lot more about defense when it came to my own personal defense, so much so that I've even learned how to stop bleeds. I believe if you put the hole in someone, you should be able to plug the hole in someone, but it's more so, I have also had wrecks that were in the middle of Timbuktu, and being able to help someone at that point in time to, save them is an enticing idea to me. It's not because I'm white knighting people, it's because I believe firmly that we are here to help one another. And as much as people will straight up piss on you and walk past you, there's still a few group of people that are still in society that we don't do that. We do what we're supposed to help our fellow man. And that's what we need more of in the world. And that's what I advocate for in 2A. I mean, I don't know of another item ever that has equalized more situations than a firearm. Both good and bad. It ends the scenario really quick. And it takes a lot of mental gymnastics for you to put this in an evil light when you look at the cold, hard statistics of the odds of you being mugged are higher than they ever have been. What are you going to do to stop that? And at that point, what are you going to do if something else happens? I will never forget the Ferguson riots when the 911 calls came through and they said, what are we supposed to do? We can't help you right now. I mean, that would be super destructive in my area because their response time's already 5, 10, 15 minutes at the best. And then to push it off even farther as that's not even going to happen. What are you going to do? We have one hospital in the area. One is another 45-minute drive away. What are you going to do in those critical seconds? When seconds count and helps minutes away, what are you going to do? And I get really frustrated seeing the media circle jerk like this actor talking out of his ass because he doesn't know real statistics, and the ones he's going to use are cherry-picked. And it happens from our side, too, as we cherry-pick statistics, not willing to get into the ring and actually talk about the real debate that needs to happen. We can have a discussion about how do we keep the wrong people from having firearms. And to be bluntly honest, the only way I see it happening now is you prosecuting people for what they've done. And you're not willing to do that because you're a leftist kook. I don't necessarily believe that the government has the right to put someone to death anymore, more so because I think that they're extremely flawed. And to allow them to have that, it's probably a bad plan. Just some thoughts on more media bias, more media coming out. On the heels of all of our wins, we're still going to have to fight this battle. Because until we can drown the guys with so many statistics, and so many realities of the actual situations we all live in, we're going to have to keep fighting to keep our rights. Like, share, subscribe, be great.